Morning, everybody. I'm Jeff Pomerantz, City Manager of the City of Cedar Rapids. We thank all of you for being here this morning. This will not be our last news conference, but tomorrow will be our last press conference. So we're getting close to the end, and we appreciate those that have come to the Ice Arena to listen to these news conferences and ask questions and participate. We also appreciate those that are following all information on social media, as well as, of course, the city's website and the Cedar Rapids media and national media to some extent. I'm joined this morning by Mayor Ron Corbett, as well as members of the Cedar Rapids City Council, and also in the audience and behind me are a number of department directors from the City of Cedar Rapids. Also in the audience are a number of partners that have assisted greatly this community in minimizing the impacts of this 2016 flood event, and we very much appreciate all of our partners. I've said it many times, but we're not doing this ourselves. We're acting as a community, and part of that community are the many, many partners that we have that have been working alongside the City of Cedar Rapids employees and leadership team as we've again worked to minimize the impact of this event on our community. We do have an important message this morning and some good news for the community. I'm happy to report that we will be able to open the evacuation area noon tomorrow to allow businesses and residential property owners access for flood-related recovery activities. So I'll repeat that because I know that messages can be confusing sometimes, and we're trying to be as absolutely clear as possible. We are opening the evacuation area noon tomorrow, Friday, to allow businesses and residential property owners access for flood-related recovery activities. The entire area will be open 7 a.m. Saturday. Please be advised that there'll be road closures and hazards in areas that continue to be impacted by water. Please be cautious of workers as the deconstruction process moves forward. I mentioned a number of times that it took about 48 hours to build the wall that has protected our city. But the deconstruction process is going to be a significant effort by many, and it's going to take some time. So as everyone wants to get back to business as usual, as you occupy your residences, as you patronize businesses, please be aware that for a period of time you're going to need to be cautious and observant of workers in the area that again are working on this effort to deconstruct primarily the walls and the levees and the berms and other equipment that was used to, in essence, save the city from a very, very devastating potential event. Because of the work of this community, our city employees, our many partners, technology that we put in place, the infrastructure that we put in place, while disruptive, we've been able to significantly minimize impacts to our city as far as what we saw in the devastating flood of 2008. We recognize that event was far more significant because of the flood levels, but this again was the second largest recorded river level in the history of our community, and it's because of the fine work of this community, the efforts of this community, again, the technology, the infrastructure, the planning, it was all put in place that protected us from devastating impact of what could have been a very, very significant disaster for our city. The curfew will continue until 7 a.m. Friday. Our police department will continue to patrol for safety. As I said, tomorrow will be the last news conference that will be necessary, although there'll be continuous information over the coming weeks regarding impacts and status of our recovery efforts. We've moved beyond the stage where we've had to build walls and barriers and protect our property and our businesses. And now it's up to city employees and our partners to really begin that cleanup effort. And it's going to take, as I said, some time. And we will appreciate the patience of everyone, all City Rapidians, but also it will be a time for volunteers. And we'll be talking about some of those efforts today, but also tomorrow's press conference, because you just think about the number of sandbags that are out in our community. They can't all be removed at one time. Those sandbags took a lot of effort to place, and they're going to take a lot more effort to remove. And you know, when you're in the moment of a looming crisis, it's not easier, but I think there's more focus on something like sandbag operations and all the effort it takes. As we're now in the cleanup effort, we're going to need that very same focus to help citizens of Cedar Rapids that have sandbagged their properties make those cleanups. At this point, I'll call on a number of speakers. As we have done at every conference, we've ended with our mayor's comments, and then we have also concluded with the opportunity for questions and answers by our audience. After those comments, we'll again allow time for our partners to also speak, primarily the Red Cross. The utilities are here today. I know there's a number of questions from citizens regarding their gas service and their electric service, and representatives are in the audience. We're not going to have them speak directly, but they are here. Mid-American Energy, of course, is here, as well as Alliant Energy. So they'll be available after this news conference. Before I call up our speakers, I did want to make one other comment, and it has to do with impacts to the community, and particularly to about 4 businesses in the Newbo area. And as city manager, I would like to acknowledge those businesses that were severely impacted in the New Bohemia area. Difficult decisions needed to be made. Our engineers consulted with the Army Corps of Engineers, flood protection specialists, and determined that the only way to have a chance of saving an entire area, an entire neighborhood, was to place those barriers where we did. I have no doubt that this community will support these businesses and all of our Cedar Rapids businesses as the recovery continues. I'd now like to call on Jem Winter, our Public Works Director.
Good morning. As the city manager mentioned, we do understand the importance of business owners and residents returning to the flood-affected zone. So we will work very hard over the next day to start removing the barriers that we can to begin opening up our downtown. For the property owners being allowed back into the area, Keep in mind that as of right now, we are still 3 feet above a major flood stage and very close to the flood of 1993 elevation. We still have many pumps running over the road, and as we begin to open up for property owners, we will still need to have some of these areas closed for pumps and hoses as we continue to try to get the water out to the river. Thank you for your patience as we continue this flood fight. Please be aware of Public Works employees, the contractors, and the vehicles working in the area. We want to be sure that they are able to continue to do the work necessary to fight the flood and to begin cleaning up the area. We want to make sure that everyone, the workers and the residents, remain safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. I'd now like to call on Jasmine Almoad, and Jasmine is our Economic Development Specialist, and she's going to be talking briefly about the efforts that we're planning regarding recovery and making sure our businesses get back on their feet and continue to prosper.
Thank you. Good morning. As City Manager Pomerantz mentioned, many of our businesses will need assistance moving sandbags and moving back into locations. So for individuals or employers who are interested in volunteering for those efforts, we encourage you to visit the city's website or the United Way website to register as a volunteer. We also encourage impacted businesses to reach out to 211 or 319-739-4211 to contact for volunteer assistance. The city will be sending a survey to assess the economic impact of these employers, commercial property owners, and residential landlords out that were in the 28-foot evacuation area. For those who are not already included in email distribution lists of the Economic Alliance or Czech Village Newboat Main Street, we encourage you to go to the city's website where we have form up that you can put your contact information up. And what this will do is it will actually include you in our contacts going forward, so any messaging that is sent out and any of the surveys that we sent out will be sent your direction. We'd also like to remind commercial property owners that they are responsible for the collection and disposal of sandbags. For those who have scheduled a service pickup, you can leave your sandbags on the curb for up to 24 hours. Those who are in the downtown and Newboat-Smith districts, those two districts are actually partnering on a program where they will be identifying 4 sites where you can dispose of those sandbags for pickup. That information should be sent to you shortly, sometime this afternoon. But please then make sure that those sandbags are kept on site until you take them to one of those designated areas. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jasmine. Now I'd like to call on Kevin Ciabatti, our Building Services Director.
Good morning. Building inspection staff spent a good deal of time yesterday surveying the neighborhoods to determine initial level of damage. Based on our observations, we have identified a small number of structures that have sustained damage or were located in standing water. A few areas were inaccessible during yesterday's survey. We will be conducting additional surveys today with the assistance of our public safety teams. Our first priority is safety, but we understand that residents and businesses are anxious and want to return to normal business. We want to remind people to use extreme caution when re-entering their property. Floodwater, even minimal levels, can create safety hazards. Please do not enter basements with standing water. If your electrical system, furnace, or water heaters have been submerged, they are considered dangerous and unsafe. Call both your electrical and gas provider immediately. You will need to hire a state of Iowa licensed contractor to repair the damage before it is safe to return electrical and gas utilities on. We encourage you to get referrals from friends and family on contractors. If you are uncertain about a contractor you have identified, the city has established a phone line and will verify if the contractor is properly registered and licensed with the state of Iowa. Please call 319-286-5929. That number again, 319-286-5929. This is not a contractor referral, but a verification service. The city will not be requiring contractor registration, and badging. The contractor must obtain a flood permit from the city for any activity that typically requires a permit. This includes the reinstallation of any electrical and mechanical equipment that was removed in preparation for the flood event. The fees for all flood permits have been waived. Upon completion of the work, a city inspector will inspect the work to verify code compliance and ensure public safety. The level of damage witnessed by staff would have been significantly more devastating without the construction, monitoring, and reinforcement of the temporary flood protection system. The success that we have seen would not have been possible without the leadership, City Council, the tireless efforts of our employees, and the willingness of contractors and citizens to work towards saving our community. Thank you.
Now I'd like to call on Mark English, our fire chief.
Good morning. Thank you for coming again. My name is Mark English, Cedar Rapids Fire Chief. My message has been every time and will continue to be safety. Please stay out of the water, continue to stay out of the water. As we join or close in on the recovery efforts, when you get back into your home or business, please be aware of any hazards that may be there. And as Kevin said, make sure you follow the proper procedures, getting licensed contractors and people to help you out so you don't do anything wrong and continue to have a safe situation. Our incident management team is continuing to run 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and they will continue to do that until we reach a safer level. I want to remind people part of that safety is to stay off of the river. Stay out of the floodwater, as I said, but stay off the river. There are city ordinances that prohibit boats on or in the water. Two different scenarios. One is when the police chief or the fire chief have declared the river unsafe, which has been done, it was done last week. And also, as long as the water is above 13 feet. Again, boats are prohibited from the water, on or in it, as long as it's above 13 feet and the ramps have been closed, which we have done. Another thing I want to remind people again as we reach this recovery phase, if you need a generator or a pump that is gasoline engine fired, please use that in a well-ventilated area. There can be a very quick buildup of carbon monoxide within the structure that can cause illness or can even be fatal. So again, please, we're getting towards the recovery phase. Let's continue to be safe and continue our track of no deaths and very, very few injuries. Thank you.
Police Chief German, please join me.
Good morning, thank you. I'd like to just emphasize a couple of points. First point is, yes, we are nearing the end of this event. What I would like to remind everyone is, as the public works crews and the contractors go about doing what they need to do to remove the HESCO barriers and other items, there's going to be lots and lots of large trucks and heavy equipment. That's going to make some travel very difficult, so please be aware of that, and our officers are going to be assisting them to allow them to efficiently remove these items. So that's the first point. And the second point is we are going to maintain increased level of staffing to provide active police patrols in those areas that were evacuated, so that those homeowners and residents that still may not be able to get back into their residence, we're going to have police patrols in those areas that were originally part of the evacuation zone. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now I'd like to call on Steve Hirschner, our Utility Director.
Good morning. I'd like to talk about sandbag disposal and other cleanup efforts. First of all, please do not place any of the sandbags in your carts. Our city vehicles, garbage trucks are not prepared for that kind of weight. Residents looking to remove their sandbags now can bring them to Norridge Pool parking lot. That location will be open starting 7 a.m. Friday to receive residential sandbags only. Starting on Saturday, we will open a second location at Ellis Park by the tennis court area. That area is currently blocked by a berm, which we anticipate will be opened over for the weekend. Watch the city website and social media channels for information to confirm when that location will be opening. I'd like to remind you to please register, as was previously mentioned by Jasmine. If you want to help your neighbors and friends get back to normal, come down to the evacuation area this weekend and help collect sandbags for drop-off at the two locations that I just mentioned. Residents not able to handle or haul sandbags at this time can leave them at their property until the city is able to collect them for free. More information on collection schedule, dates and times to follow. We anticipate this effort starting the week of October 10th and finishing in 2 weeks. The city plans to reuse as much of the sandbag materials collected as possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Steve. Again, we will allow questions in a few moments. I'm also joined by our interpreter for members of our deaf community. Throughout this entire situation, the city has worked hard to communicate to all of our community in a variety of different ways, and we hope that those individuals that have been to our Facebook, use social media, work with members of our local media, have recognized the city's efforts to communicate. Also like to say thank you to the members of our local media. Done an outstanding job working with us during this difficult time in the reporting of the various events that have occurred and working with our citizens to make sure everyone has critical information. It's now my pleasure to introduce Mayor Ron Corbett.
Great. Thank you, Jeff, and good morning, everyone. Well, I think we've all had more than enough coffee over the last week, probably laced with a few energy drinks along the way also. But we may be hitting a little bit of a wall as a community and as individuals and businesses. And I don't mean hitting the temporary flood wall, I mean hitting the wall of fatigue and exhaustion. But we got a few more days yet, and things will get back to normal. Before I go into a couple remarks, I just had to, as I was sitting around last night, kind of decompressing, thinking of the whole event. My attention just focused on the Public Works Department. When you think of a Public Works Department in a community, it's truck drivers and snowplow drivers, skid loaders, front-end loaders, people that jump in ditches and trenches and crawl through tunnels. It's kind of a man's job. It's an industry that's really dominated by men. But our leader for the Public Works Department is Jen Winters. Jen, if you just stand for a second and come up here. Jen's pretty new to the job. She's the first female in the history of Cedar Rapids to ever head up the Public Works Department. Ralph Russell on our city council recognized her talent and her ability years ago when he hired her to work at Howard R. Green. And Jeff saw everything she did at Howard R. Green and said she would be a great leader in Cedar Rapids. This flood protection system held. It didn't leak, it didn't breach. Jen Winter never cracked under all the pressure of the last several days. And I just want to publicly thank her. Jen, You are a rock star. Thank you for recognizing her. And it isn't just me, Jen, or the people in this press conference today. It's citizens all over Cedar Rapids. To the residents of Cedar Rapids, let me say to you, welcome home. I know it was a challenging decision for you to make several days ago to honor the request of the evacuation effort. I can tell you from myself and the city council, a lot of tough decisions to make. Some of them were easy, more tough. Jeff and his team, a lot of tough. It's an easy decision, actually, to ask people to leave. I mean, it's a public safety issue. But it's also a hard decision to make because it impacts so many people, and you don't know how people are going to react. Around the country, we see in a lot of communities a tense, almost a hostile environment between citizens and the government. So going into this decision to ask people to evacuate, oftentimes the reaction of the people is based on the first step the government takes and how they take that step. And that's why we gave everyone an advance notice, to give people some time to contemplate the decision and when they would move out, and how they would move out, and who would help them to move out. And people did. And I want to thank all the citizens that honored that request for the voluntary evacuation, because you did that, because you trusted in your government. There was less chaos in the evacuation area, and all the good workers were able to put that temporary system and all the plugs that helped prevent this disaster. So when I say welcome home, I really mean it. But we honored then our commitment to you. We kept our promise. We said if you move out on Sunday, you'll be back by Saturday. And you are. See, that's how it works when governments and citizens work together for the benefit of their community. So thank you so much for that. Second, to all the businesses, I want to say welcome back. Cedar Rapids is open for business, and Cedar Rapids is back in business. First, let me address all the larger companies like Penford, Diamond V Mills, Alliant, United Fire, the banks, the law firms, Great America Leasing, Cargill, and Quaker. We need you in our community. Our citizens count on the jobs that you create. Your payroll is critical to our success, not just from the council and the leadership of the city of Cedar Rapids, but from the citizens. Remember back in 2008 when the water was eerily flowing through our downtown. No power, quiet. All you could hear was the rush of the water. And then all of a sudden, someone, I don't know who it was, over at Quaker, somehow found a way to light up that sign in our downtown. And it was the only thing that illuminated in our community was that Quaker Oats. See, we need all of these businesses in our town, and as you're all getting back into operations and cleaning up in the weeks and months, there may be some thought, maybe in a boardroom someplace, maybe an executive roundtable discussion. Cedar Rapids, a place we really want to be? The answer is yes. Cedar Rapids is the place you really want to be. Is Cedar Rapids a place you want to continue to commit and make capital investments? Yes, Cedar Rapids is the place you want to be to continue to make capital investments. Do we want to go through this again? No, we don't. but we have made such incredible progress over the last 8 years, and we're not going to stop. We're going to continue to make that progress. So my message to these larger businesses that provide the payroll and the jobs, please don't lose faith in us. Please continue to stand with us to build Cedar Rapids. The second group of businesses that I want to address, and I have a special request from the citizens of Cedar Rapids. And let me tell you why. After a disaster, oftentimes there's this federal money that comes into your town or state money that comes in your town to help your town recover and rebuild. That provides a stimulus. And that stimulus effect has a ripple effect or a multiplier effect in your community. But we're not going to have that this time. We're not going to have this stimulus from the federal or state government. If we're successful in getting any resources, it's really going to be for cost recovery of all the activity that's taking place. So all these businesses in Czech Village, Newbo, Kingston Village, downtown, all these retailers, these restaurants, all these establishments lost about a week's worth and maybe more of revenue. So my request of the citizens of Cedar Rapids and beyond, if you're listening, we need you to be the stimulus. We need you as the consumers to come back to these businesses and pledge over the next month, it'll be October here this weekend, to pledge over the next month that you'll visit one of these businesses, buy a meal, buy something at the retail store, have a drink 10 times over the next month in October, and you become the stimulus to help all these businesses that weren't impacted by the flooding, but they were impacted because of the flood. Will you make that one last request to me? Will you make that commitment over the next month to visit one of those businesses? And now specifically, I want to challenge the bicycle community in Cedar Rapids. The bicycle community of Cedar Rapids is a wonderful group. And I've seen bicyclists all the time around the downtown, and we've, as a city, have really made great strides in trying to provide more bike trails and more biking lanes. And I can tell you, it's been a little controversial in our community. Not everybody likes that. So will you do us a favor? Will you organize yourself in a special way over the next month? It's going to be still good weather. Everybody's going to be able to bike. That you will come down and support one of those businesses 15 times. I want you in the bicycle community to do more than the average citizen. We've done a lot for you. We're asking you, will you please come down and support these businesses that were affected by your flood? If you do that, and the citizens do that, that will provide the economic stimulus to recreate the vibe that we had in our community. That's why people have fallen in love in Cedar Rapids with our community. They love coming to the downtown because of the vibe. They love going to the Czech Village because of the vibe, or Kingston because of the vibe, or Newbo because of the vibe. We don't want to lose that vibe, and you can help by committing to come down to these businesses at least 10 times over the month of October. In the bicycle community, I think you can rise to the challenge, and I'm asking you to do it 15 times. If you do that, all these businesses will get back up on our feet. We'll get that vibe back, and we'll be open for business. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Okay, we're going to take this opportunity for any questions. Yes.
We've heard the magic number for the Edgewood Road Bridge is about 18 feet on the Cedar River. Just wondering if it's possible that that could be open as early as today, or if there's some inspections that have to go on for that particular bridge and roadway too.
We have a question regarding when we're going to reopen the Edgewood Bridge. Director Winter.
We do not anticipate opening the Edgewood Road Bridge today. We've done bridge inspections. We have bridge inspections complete on 1st, 2nd, 3rd Avenue, and 8th Avenue, and those will be the first bridges to open. The Edgewood Bridge is going to take us a little longer. We had more water on top of that bridge, so we have to wait for the water to go down. There's going to be a series of inspections. It's likely that there might be some minor work that needs to be done before we can open that. Generally, that's the case anytime that the water actually goes over a bridge.
Just to clarify, you weren't talking about the Edgewood Road Bridge, you were talking about the Ellis-Edgewood intersection?
Correct. Yes. Yes, the Edgewood.
Yeah, you said 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 8th Avenue bridges have been inspected?
Yes, that's correct.
And when do you anticipate those will be open?
We are actually working on opening those today. Keep in mind there will be restricted access across those bridges until Saturday morning at 7 a.m. But we do anticipate having those bridges open for the returning property owners at noon on Friday.
Yes.
I have a question for Steve about the sandbags. With the residences obviously can take those to Knoll Ridge you mentioned, but is that only non-flooded sandbags or both?
That's going to be both.
Okay.
Because of the nature of this flooding event, we have made the determination that all the material can be recycled. So it's both.
I'm looking into the future, like in spring. Like, can some of us save the sandbags? Because like in the spring when we have like flash flooding, and like, I think it was like 2 or 3 summers ago, some of us had like another 14 inches drifting in again. So could we save some of the sandbags so in the spring with the flash flood we could protect our basement from not getting flooded over and over again?
So I just want to repeat, this gentleman asked a question regarding, whether there had to be a separation between wet sand and sand untouched by moisture, and I answered that would not be necessary. And citizen has a question regarding whether there can be the saving of sandbags on property for future flooding, future similar, hopefully we won't have a similar event, but future events. Steve? One thing, let Steve address that, but we really think it's important that we not have a community that has sandbags piled throughout our residential areas and our businesses, but I also understand that there may be special situations where that may be necessary.
In the case of saving some of those sandbags by residential or residents, I would encourage you to find a place in a garage. Those bags can deteriorate very quickly in sunlight. So if folks wanted to keep some of those bags in a garage for a flash flood, or potentially if they're in the evacuated zone, another flood condition at some time, they would be available for that. They do have a shelf life. They can't last forever.
Can we store them in the basement for some that does not have garage?
I think inside, outside of the sunlight is the best way for them to last as long as possible.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
What about the ramps off 380? Do you know when those will be open? Is that 7 on Saturday as well?
So this is a question regarding when are the 380 ramps going to be opened up?
Yeah, similar to the bridges, we're working on getting 380 ramps opened up, but again, to the restricted access of the property owners, and they would be open to the general public on 7 a.m. on Saturday.
Thank you. Further questions? Okay, well, thank you very much. Mr. Tian does have a comment, and I just wanted to add, the mayor mentioned all the individuals, public and private, that participated in helping this community get back and protecting and saving this community. And as city manager, I would certainly affirm that Director Winter showed tremendous leadership during this entire event. But what also gives me just tremendous satisfaction, pride, as well as confidence is just the way that all of our city employees, no matter what the position or role, came together as members of a team. And so, you know, there are individuals in certain positions that you have expectations for providing leadership and assistance. And, you know, a position in the administration would be an example of that. It's an expectation that you're going to be there for the community. You're going to provide leadership. But what I could also say is that throughout our organization, many employees came forward, volunteered, worked around the clock, perhaps in areas where they weren't completely familiar, but they just wanted to chip in, do their part. There were others providing technical expertise that was critical to getting this system constructed, that worked absolutely around the clock. And we put a lot of pressure and stress on those individuals, but they did it really on their own, willingly, because of the pride they showed in Cedar Rapids. So as city manager, often public employees, you know, we're funded by the taxpayer, and there's high expectations for city employees and governmental employees. But I wanted to assure the public and say that our city employees, no matter what the position, no matter what the role, came together because of their care for this community, and that has just made me extremely proud in what I'll say are the public servants of Cedar Rapids. And I know the community joins me in that feeling. Now, Mr. Tien from the American Red Cross.
Good morning, and it's always good to hear the great news as we move forward with this flooding operation. The Red Cross continues to operate 2 shelters, Cedar Hills Community Church and St. Paul's United Methodist Church, and our shelter population continues to be fairly stable in numbers. We had 130 residents between the 2 shelters. The shelters will remain open as long as there is an emergency need. We anticipate those numbers may even grow tonight as people are starting to regroup and come together. Starting today, Red Cross in cooperation with Salvation Army will be beginning to distribute food within the Cedar Rapids impacted area. We have people returning to their homes, and of course, as the news revealed here tomorrow, many more who have homes and businesses will be allowed back in. So you'll see a more frequent visit by Red Cross and Salvation Army, who partner in this effort to make sure that everyone has food and beverage and snacks. And the food is being prepared by our community partner of the Hy-Vee stores. So we thank them for that. Red Cross is also a strong partner of our local voluntary aid group. It's called LAP Aid, Linn County Partners Assisting in Disasters. They are a group of all the agencies and voluntary agencies, government agencies that come together that will help in the recovery of this disaster. And it's not over with yet. You know, the flood water's going down, as the city manager and the mayor says, the bags need to be picked up. We have people who have been displaced by their homes are moving back in, so there's a lot of cleanup left to go. And that's why it's important that you reach out to your community resources. The best way of doing that is by calling 211 and asking for assistance if you have identified assistance or needing any kind of help. If you want to volunteer, then you can go to www.eci.org. UWCI.org, excuse me, can't read my own writing here. As people are recovering, as I'm driving through town today, we're seeing a lot of people who are out picking up their sandbags. Part of being safe that we've talked about from day one is taking care of yourselves physically and emotionally. So be careful. I'm hearing a lot of back injuries, people strain backs, they're pulling up and dragging things. As people are moving back into their houses, I've heard a lot of people say we've moved things up to the second floor. So be careful, we don't need additional injuries within the community. If you're in floodwaters or have been near floodwaters and your house is impacted, be sure to use proper protective gear, from face mask, gloves, clothes that you can wash easily so you don't spread any contaminants around. If any of your items have been exposed to water, please sanitize them effectively. If they're like toys or stuffed animals, for children, things, you may want to discard them. You can go to redcross.org, and we have on our website, we tell you how to take care of moving back into your house after being evacuated and getting reestablished to do it safely. Something we oftentimes don't think about are our pets. To many of us, our pets are very important to us. They've also been evacuated. Our homes have been changed, their smells, their yards have all changed. So look in your yard, check to make sure there's nothing dangerous through all this construction of levees has ended up in your yard or on the walk along the sidewalk where you go, taking your dog for a walk so none of our pets are injured. And of course, that's obviously true for children, that the children playing in the yards could be exposed to chemicals, could be exposed to metal fragmentation or things that could impact us. And then you get the emotional part. We've been through heroics today. We call it different phases of disasters. And we talk about the heroic and the honeymoon phase, and then the next phase would be the disillusionment phase. And we all go through these phases differently at different times. So we can continue to anticipate, even those people who had no water damage, they've still been evacuated. So the stress can still be high as they move back in, try to get settled, move all that furniture down. Frustration perhaps at city council, leaders that, hey, you made us evacuate and we didn't get flooded. Those are all going to be normal reactions to this event. Just take some time, take a break, go for a walk, do some meditation, journal, eat well, keep yourself hydrated, and we'll all get this through this together. And of course, if you need any assistance with emotional crisis, feel free to call 211. We have mental health experts and community partners that are here to serve, because we can all see the end line, but there's a lot of work to do there. Let's just take good care of ourselves. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Tian. Again, tomorrow will be our last news conference, 10 a.m. tomorrow morning. Thank you.